And we are back for another episode of USATF's Journey to Goal Zone podcast. I am your host, Erik Kynard Jr., joined by the lovely Miss Sharrieffa Barksdale. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest with us this afternoon. 1980 Pan American Games junior gold medalist, 5 times U.S. outdoor champion, 7-time U.S. indoor champion at 800 meters, the incomparable Joetta Clark Diggs. How are you doing, Miss Joetta?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. I appreciate that introduction.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
Yes, yes, yes. And like Eric said, we have the lovely Joetta in the house. In the house. I've been a friend of hers since high school, senior year of high school. And then we were getting ready to go to college. And, you know, we can't start the podcast without telling a story when our guest comes on. So I have to share this story, probably 2 stories, but it won't take long. So Joetta and I, it's our senior year in high school, and we go on the visit to University of Tennessee volunteers. And so we hit it off great, and we came back and told Terry Crawford, hey, we want to be roommates. So Terry said, are you sure? And so Joetta and I, we said, yes, we want to be roommates. So make a long story short, we were roommates. So Joetta, she could study popping gum, looking at TV, all of that. I had to have silence. So Joetta kept on just popping gum. I'm like, Lord, I can't take this no more. So then Joetta went to class, and she had some crackers in her box. So I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure she's not going to mind me taking some of her peanut butter crackers, which she called cookies, by the way. So I go over there to her room and on her side, and I get the crackers and I eat them and everything. And so I didn't get a chance to tell Joetta, hey, I'm going to replace them. I ate your cookies. So Joetta said, who ate my cookies? Who ate my cookies? I said, well, I did. And so then we had a little back and back forth words. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing this no more. So I put this piece of string across the room. Joetta was on the other side. I was by the door. So I'm like, just step across this line because you can't go nowhere. So Joetta said, just bet. Now me and Joetta both got strong personality. She said, oh, I'm coming across that line. So then we didn't end up, so Terry separated us, and so we didn't end up being roommates anymore. But the thing about it is we end up being best friends. And although that little episode happened, it did not stop us from being the best that we could be at University of Tennessee. Now, before you respond, Joetta, so the telephone rings. And so I go and answer. You know, I'm trying to be a thug and stuff. Don't know nothing about being no thug. So I know how Joetta's father is, but I didn't catch his voice. So the telephone rang. I go and answer. I said, yo, what's up? Mr. Clark said, who is this? I said, this Sharrieffa. He said, young lady, let me tell you this. Don't you ever answer that phone like that one more time. He said, you are a young lady and you carry yourself like a young lady. I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Clark. Now, Joetta, go on and fill in the blank, girlfriend.
But there are no blanks. The story was accurate. The room situation was accurate. And my father's situation was accurate. I think, though, it just lets you know that sometimes in life you have some bumps along the way, but it's the friendship and fellowship and the sistership that we've gained over that's 40-something years.
Yes.
So we didn't let that deter us from graduating and also doing well in track in college and post-college.
Yes.
Yes. Now, the University of Tennessee, Joetta, is a long ways away from Newark, New Jersey. Obviously,
Right.
growing up in Newark in the early 60s, you are no stranger to adversity. And as Ms. Sharrieffa mentioned, with, a father as great and well known from an education and disciplinary perspective to the world. Obviously, your father, the great late Joe Clark, subject matter of the Morgan Freeman movie Lean on Me.
Yes.
How did the influence of not only your environment of Newark and the leadership of your father shape your perspective as it relates to overcoming and facing adversities and pursuing your dreams and aspirations in life?
That's a bunch for me to unpack, but I'm going to unpack it the best I can. Growing up in the city of Newark in 1967, the riots came. So my parents moved out. My father went to South Orange and my mother stayed in Newark. And growing up in the city of Newark and being in an environment where it was a lot of tough times, but we had an affluent family. We had a one-family home, so we didn't have to struggle. But there was one thing my father always said was that just because someone hasn't done it, doesn't mean you can't do it. And my mother, the same thing. They believe that just because someone hasn't accomplished anything or hasn't done something doesn't mean you can't do it. It was their job as parents to provide the environment for us to be successful, and we listened. And adversity has been something that I've grown up with, but it's about how you navigate through that. And everybody has situations and problems and hard times, but how do you turn that into success? And that's what I've been able to do from the foundation that they gave me, and also believing in yourself. I believe in myself all the time. I may not always get a positive result, but I believe that whatever I am faced with, I can overcome it.
And that is so true, Joetta, because I've been to you all's home when Mr. Clark and your mom and stuff, and I just know the discipline and the toughness that they gave you all. And the thing about it is they gave you all tough love, and you knew exactly what they stood for because it carries on today.
Right. I think that's true. The tough love, we have kids too, Sharrieffa, so we probably did the same with our kids. But I think the one thing is that even in sports, if you start something, you have to finish it. In our schoolwork, if you start something, high school, college, you're going to finish it. And so failure was not an option. It was a nagging reality that kept us focused. So we knew that we were going to have problems, but we knew that we could overcome them. We knew that we could be resilient. And my father wasn't, the Dr. Joe Clark, something of the movie Lean on Me when I was growing up. That happened more in the late 80s, early 90s. So he was always that guy, but he didn't become known for it until the movie. But his background was strict, stern, don't talk back. And, Sharrieffa knows my mother, Joetta.
Yes.
That's how I got my name. Joetta and Joe got Joetta. She was no nonsense either. So both of them together, that was a really tough environment to grow up in. But we knew
yes.
that they believed in us and they wanted us to be better than what they were. They set a platform, and it's always important for you to do better than your parents, than your grandparents, and set the stage for your children and grandchildren.
Yes, ma'am. And the stakes they did set. Obviously, you having great success in the sport of track and field. Your brother having success, who later turned into your coach in the sport of track and field, and your little sister Hazel Clark as well having success as being the top 800-meter runner from 2000 on in the United States early into 2008, and I believe making that Olympic team. How do you continue, I would say, to not only to inspire but achieve having such early success, in your athletic career, and how do you transfer that success into regular life?
That's a good question, because if you have to go back to my time, and we didn't really have a future in track and field because women's sports and men's sports were separate. And when we got out of school in 1984, 1985, we didn't know about pro track and the money and all of that. And so it was more like graduate, and maybe you can go to Europe, maybe not, but work on yourself because you're not going to be able to make a career out of this. So that's what I did. So although I wanted to run and I was doing okay, we weren't making money. There were no really major contracts for us. And I knew that I had to have something else to work on. And I did just that. I worked on, I was a state investigator for New Jersey, and I investigated white-collar crimes and drug enforcement. So I did that for a couple of years. But the bottom line is that I was prepared through what I learned through track and field to be able to work in business. And I've had my business now for over 3 decades, but it all stemmed from me not knowing that I was going to be in this sport for over 25 years, saying, Joetta, after you graduate college, we know what are you going to do? And track and field was not really a viable option. It didn't really become viable until 1989 when the war went down in Germany. And now my 158 is running what the world is running. Before that, they were running 153, 154. And I was back in last trying to just to get a PR. And, to be back 40 yards back in a race, that's a daunting task. And it says something to your sanity. Is she insane? Or does she just want to enjoy and take the last? Whatever it was, I hung in there. So when the war came down in 1990, came around, now I'm one of the best in the world.
Yes, and that you are. And that leads us to you being a 4-time Olympian. And I'm going to take them back to 1984 when you didn't make the Olympic team. And what's so great and so inspiring about you, Joetta, you didn't let not making that 1984 Olympic team distract you from going back, and you had revenge. And not only did you have revenge, you had a goal, and you perfected that goal, because I saw you work out, being at University of Tennessee with Terry Crawford and stuff like that, and she's having us to run together and stuff like that. I'm like, Lord Jesus. And, just having that type of attitude, don't quit, because you're not a quitter. You're a winner, and you will always be a winner. Just to make those team and not making that team says a lot about you, because you could have given up. You could have said, hey, forget it, but you didn't.
Yeah, I didn't make two teams, Sharrieffa. I didn't make the team in 1980. I made the finals as a high schooler, right? I made the finals, so that was no big deal. I made the finals. I was happy. But in 84, I was upset because I won everything, indoors, and I won outdoors. I even won back then. You ran the USATF championships prior to the trials, and I won that as well. I won NCAAs, and I got knocked out to semifinals, and I was very upset. But Terry told I wasn't going to go to the track. I was not going to the track to watch that 800.
I remember.
Because I had beat all those people. Terry said, take your tail to that track, you sit in those bleachers, and you watch that race.
Yes.
And I did that. And the feeling I felt inside, I didn't want to have that again. And it wasn't that I wasn't prepared for the team. I just ran out of gas from the collegiate career, and I just wasn't prepared. But that feeling that I felt, I knew that I would keep training hard, and I would always, always remember this feeling, because I didn't want to be on that side again.
And that says a lot, because Terry being in college, Terry did not play the radio. And I never forget that it was our AIAW championship, and it was our last event, the 4x4, and we was getting ready to run against UCLA, because it was tied. The scores was tied, and it came down to the mile relay. And I remember us stretching, and I was nervous. I said, Joetta, and I was telling Delisa, girl, I'm about to throw up. I don't think I can make it. He said, oh, yes, you can make it. We done came too far. And the thing about it is the camaraderie, the love, the family that we had back then for that relay. And I just remember I was second leg, and I said, I just have to stay close. I have to stay close to get this baton to Joetta. Then once I got it, Kathy gave it to me. I gave it to you, and you gave it to Delisa, and it was over, and we won.
Yes. And I think that, the sport teaches you about camaraderie, even though sometimes we didn't agree on everything. And as women and men, we don't always agree, but there's a bigger cause out there. And the bigger cause that day was for us to win the AIAW championships. So in life, you have to figure out what your why is. And people often say, Joetta, why did you compete for so many years? Did you ever want to give up? You never missed a season. Why? I couldn't do that. Well, guess what? That wasn't your assignment. That was my assignment. And the assignment of staying around for 25 years, but not just about me, developing camps, having a foundation, having kids graduate, speak to student athletes across this country, having a business that came out of track and field. That's my why. And I think that when you look at everything that I've done, learning to be disciplined, focused, show up, be on time. These are things that I've done in sports. So in my business life, people know when I show up, I'm going to show out.
That's right.
I'm not going to do a second class event. I'm not going to do a second class performance. I'm always going to be on top of my game. And sometimes, Sharrieffa and Erik, people don't understand that drive that I have, but the expectations that I have for myself, I set for somebody else. So yes, I'm going to call. Yes, I'm going to make sure you're on point, because that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I think as adults, and also looking at the young people, you show up to practice, you listen to your coaches, you stretch, you cool down. Social media, although it's great, you have to moderate that and monitor that, and don't value yourself through that. And I think growing up as teenagers and young adults, we leaned on each other. And that's what I want the young people to lean on each other, because you're gonna look back 40 years ago and you say, that's my best friend now.
That's right.
Sharrieffa is my best friend now.
That's
Auntie
right.
Sharrieffa. My daughter calls her Auntie Sharrieffa.
Yes, we're best friends. Yes.
That's right. So that line in the dorm room, that didn't really divide us. It made us closer.
It made us closer. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Now, while at the University of Tennessee, obviously coached, by Coach Terry Crawford, you won 9 collegiate titles. You got a degree in public relations. As Ms. Sharrieffa alluded to, a 4-time Olympian, 1988, 1992 Seoul, Korea Olympic finalist, 96 and 2000. At the 2000 Olympics, you and your sister-in-law qualified. How was that for a little camaraderie?
And you forgot my sister made that team too.
And your sister, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yes, and your sister, you're right. So
They took
y'all
the
take
sweet.
y'all take the sweet. Y'all take the sweet.
1, 2, 3. I think that was the greatest accomplishment of my track and field career, because I was 38. I had a car accident that sidelined me for a year, and I was the weakest link. Hazel was out there running through college and running really well. My sister-in-law, Gerald, had already made the team in the 400 earlier that week, and she came back a couple of days later to go through the rounds of the 8. So I knew that they were in shape. I knew that I was not in the shape I needed to be in, because why? I made 3 teams. I wasn't doing the workouts. I couldn't do the workouts. I ripped my oblique, so I didn't like contact. If someone would hit me, it would hurt my side. That's why I was in the back. I didn't get out. So I knew I had to stay in the back, because I got in the middle. I like to bump. So if someone bumped me, that might hurt my obliques, and I'm going to have to stop. So that was my greatest accomplishment in track and field, having my sister go 1, my sister-in-law 2. I was 3rd. My brother JJ coached us, and my mother and father were both alive to see that happen. So so that was really special time. And there are times in your life when it's showtime, and then there's time in your life when it's go time, and then there's times in your life where it's like, what time is it? Well, that's where I was. What time was it? Because I knew that I was not ready to go. I wasn't ready to show, but I knew that I could beat. It sounds kind of cocky. I said, I got to go 159. I always go 159. I can do that. I was just hoping the other girls could not. So it was just 4 of us vying for that time, which was okay. And the story is that my brother put Gerald in the 800 because he wanted her to have a longer career. So he moved her up. And I'm like, I was upset, because I'm like, Jay, I took care of you. I got in a lot of trouble. In my event, we already got enough people. We got, we got Mutola, we got Annika Rowe, we got Hazel, we got Meredith Rainey. We got enough. We don't need Gerald in this race. So she ran the race, and she set an American record the first time she ran that race.
Wow.
And I was upset. I was in that race. I wanted to leave Team Clark. I'm like, Jay, you're paying her too much attention. What about all this stuff? And I was upset. But then you have to get outside of yourself and think about this. If she's setting American records, maybe we work together. I can do it too. I never set the American record, but I became a rabbit. And they wanted me to rabbit all of their races. So I'm now making more money to run and stop than I was running to run and finish the race. So that was a blessing that she and Mutola said, you know what, use Joetta as a rabbit, and except for some races.
Whether you want to support this team, participate locally, or have Olympic aspirations, join Team USATF. Visit usatf.org/membership to get involved in the action. Yeah, 28 consecutive years competing. You missed not one indoor-outdoor season. Probably the most consistent racer in the middle distance to date, especially on the female side. And speaking of that, 25 years later, after running for 28 years, you decided to step in another race.
Yes.
A medal that I know you hold very near and dear to your heart.
Yep, it's in my heart now.
Right. There we go.
We see you, girlfriend.
Ma'am.
All right.
So what prompted and what was the motivation behind, besides maybe, your daughter, world champion, Sharrieffa Diggs, a champion in her own right, being there as extrinsic motivation, why in the hell, if you don't excuse my language, did you decide to go run a 200 And congratulations.
Yes,
200
congratulations.
200 USATF Masters champion in the 200 meters, American record holder at 200 meters at the distance at 28:26 for the age group 60 to 64. But Miss Clark Diggs, why did you step your behind out there on that track after all this time?
Well, I stepped my behind out there in some shorts. I didn't have on briefs.
Yes, ma'am.
I represented someone 62 years old. I was out there in briefs and a little tank top in my number. I knew what to wear.
Yes, ma'am. You look good.
Yes, you did. You look good.
I always stay in fit shape. I have a company called Joetta Fitness. So we're always trying to make sure that we are making people use fitness as a lifestyle. So I was basically in fitness, but I wasn't in race fitness. And I always run a 200 at my track and field camps. So this year I ran one when I was out at Stanford, and they said, well, Miss Joetta, if you run 32 seconds, you should run the Masters race. So I ran like a 30.1. I'm like, oh my gosh. So my daughter's always been saying, Mommy, I want to see you run. I want to see you run. I've never seen you run. I said, well, please, I can't run 800. I've got to train to run the 800. I think I can do a 200. So the end of January, like January 28th, I came back and I registered for the Masters. And I said, okay, am I going to really do that? It's cold in New Jersey. What am I going to do? So I'm in this house running up my steps, doing it was cold and snow and icy. And I went into the track only 4 times, once every Tuesday from February 1st to the Tuesday before my race. I went in the first one. I did some sprints. I said, okay. Then I got some spikes. I did some 350s. I'm like, okay. And the Tuesday before my race, I ran 60, 40, 20, and 100. And I said, okay, let's go. But it was because of my daughter. She wanted to see me run. And I said, okay, I would do it. Now, I did not know how fast I was going to run. I just wanted to run and just let her see me run. In the meantime, she got T-shirts saying,
yes, yes.
She made all the kids from the University of Florida were there. My sister-in-law drove in. Some of my friends surprised me. They came down. And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to run yet. What do you mean you're coming down? Oh, so they got down there and I ran. And I tell you, I had on spikes. I was in lane 6. I don't know how to run down off the bank. I'm about to trip and kill myself. I'm like, this is too much. But, as an athlete, you can't teach a dog how to bark. They either bark or they don't.
Yes,
you got that right. You got that right.
I'm like, uh-oh, y'all left me too close. Y'all did.
And Joetta, what was so fascinating, because we were texting, me, you, and Rose and Talitha, and we was texting and we were just so excited because before you even went out there, I said, Joetta, I have a feeling that you're gonna set the world record. You said, oh no, but hey, I missed the world record, but you got the American record, and to see you out there brought so much joy to us, to cheer you on. And Talitha, she was all in it, but I'm so glad that she was able to see her mom run and the joy on her face and the hugs, and it was just phenomenal. But what is so great is that this month is National Women History Month, so you made history, setting the American record, just first time going out there after all these years of decades not running stuff. You look good. You did well, girl. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Even Terry, so she's called me up and we spoke, and she said, well, Joetta, you didn't run down the back straightaway. I said, no, I didn't really run. I had to get my steps. I had been on a bank track. The Masters, they're serious. They're training, they're racing. Those two ladies have been running for 30 years. They beat each other. No one is nowhere near them. So it's like a group. And so I'm just popping in here like I'm in here. But I'm going to run outdoors. I'm going to do it again and train and run some races this time. And it's going to be a little bit different because I'm going to train a little bit more and do more races. But it was exciting and to have my daughter there. And, she had gotten the American record also at one time, and I had one as well. So that was something special that we both had the American record. But the smile on her face, she still talks about it. She was so excited.
Yes,
and I think that it's a testament that no matter how old you are, if you put your mind to something, you can achieve the goal. I can't run as fast. The reality is, that would be slower than the first 200 of my 800. you have to be where you are in life, and that's where I am now. So I'm embracing that. My hat goes off to all of the masters, that were there up to 90 years old. It was just a really great situation to be part of it. And then my father is transitioned. He's buried there. My daughter graduated from there. My brother coached there. I trained there. My sister graduated from there. I had a place there. So it just, all the stars aligned for me to do that meet and make that my come out meet.
Yes, man. Well, Gainesville definitely is a special place, and I know we'll miss you at the World Masters Athletics Championships on March 23rd through 30th. However, we are excited to see you step back on the track outside with a little more training.
Yes, I will be out there doing the 2, the 4, maybe a long jump. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Oh, you're going to show some range. Now, you're going to show out for sure.
Now,
if
you know what, Joelle, you talking about some long jump, girl. Look, I want to be there. Just look, call me up, please.
Girl, I'm just messing with you.
I know you are.
I was about to say long jump.
No,
I can see now. I can see you. Getting in that quarter, maybe 100 and stuff like that. But Joetta, hey girl, I am so proud of you. I mean, we talk on the phone and we motivate each other and we send each other words of encouragement and stuff like that. And that is so important to encourage one another, because we're liking in that. People are liking in encouraging one another, being happy and stuff like that. The world is messed up as it is already, and it doesn't hurt anyone to give a little encouragement. Send that little text message, because it doesn't but a little click, send.
Yeah, send. And I think that when I look at that, I get encouraged by what I see the young people doing for USA Track and Field. I'm inspired by seeing them showing up and the way the sport's moving, and the college kids, what they're doing, even the AAU kids. It's just really a great family, and to be part of it as a spectator for many years, and now being back out there, that's a blessing to be able to be alive and be healthy enough to be able to run, to be able to travel, to be able to cheer. And I'm a big fan of my daughter, but I like good sports. So there are people that I cheer for, that I like to see do well. And then when I see some of the kids sad, I go over and talk to them, because when I grew up, we didn't really, the older people didn't come over to us.
That's
we were
right.
kind of on our own.
We had to
so
suck
I
it up.
talk about some things that help them stay with their coach, or maybe leave their coach, or whatever they're going through. If I can help in any way, I make sure that I do that, because this is Women's History Month, and it's all about women. But I also want to cheer the young men as well, to make sure that they have longevity in the sport, or do the best they can while they're in the sport.
Yes, ma'am. Now, you spoke a little bit about imparting that wisdom on, children or young athletes. You started Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation in 2002. And you also spoke about, your daughter, obviously, Talitha, and her success or participation in the sport. How much of a part, I would ask, either be from the motherhood standpoint, or mominger standpoint, or coach had at times, how great is your influence in Talitha's training and athletic career and life currently?
Well, actually, the most influence I had was probably a freshman year in college, because it was COVID. And even though I've known Mike for years, he didn't know our personality. You couldn't get to know the kids. You couldn't see them. They couldn't. So he didn't know what made it go. So from a mental perspective, I talked to Mike about that. But then after that, they just did what they did. And, Talitha is all her own person. And I always tease her. All the other kids, Mama Joe, how should I do this, Mama Joe? Talitha, just the antithesis. I come to my meets, maybe come around the team, but I'm not listening to whatever you say. I'm not listening.
But Joetta, we have to go back to when she was probably 4.
Okay.
When she was 4 years old, and I was at their home, and I see this little girl Talitha running, and I'm like, Joetta, she's gonna be a track star. But she was hurdling over this little toy that she had, and her form was good. I said, oh no, she's gonna be a hurdler, and Auntie Sharrieffa's gonna have to help her with her hurdling and stuff like that. But I asked Talitha today, you gonna hurdle? She looked at me like I'm crazy. I think not. But you could just tell the that she was so athletic at that age, at age 4, because she was fast as grease lightning.
Yeah, she was. She was really fast, and I think that she if I give her try and give her guidance. It was a tough year for her, and I didn't make my first 2 teams, and then I made other teams, so she didn't make her first 2 teams. But I think, what did you learn out of this? A lot of times when you don't do well, you have a pity party, and the lesson is, what did you learn? And when you go back into training, what are you going to do differently? If you see some of those same signs popping up, you have the knowledge and base now not to do the same thing over again. So I said, Talitha, now you're in a new situation with a new coach. And if you see some of those same things creeping up, you learn from the other year not to do that. So I think she does listen to me with that. But I'm Mama Joe. Show up at the meet, make sure you're there, wash my clothes, bring me some food, but don't tell me how to come through what zone or whatever. I'm not listening.
Well, Joetta, that brings us, when you were talking about Talitha and you was telling her no pity party, that brings us up to tell us your 5 P's.
Okay. Yeah, I have a book called Joetta's P Principles for Success, Life Lessons Learned in Track and Field. My first P is to have a purpose. What is your purpose in life? And then how do you prepare? You have a purpose, you can prepare, and you be patient. I made 4 teams, but I tried out 6 times, and then you have to get perturbed. There are going to be times in your life when people say you can't do something. You're black, you're white, you're Hispanic, you're tall, you're too old. And so you have to get perturbed and show them that you can do something. You have to persevere. That means you never give up. You win or lose by an inch. I never cease hoping is the acronym. You stay focused. Follow one course until successful, and that leads you to the next P, which is pray. And so those are the P's that I use in sports, I use in life, and those are the P's that you need to do anything in life. I have a purpose, get prepared, be patient, get perturbed, persevere, and pray.
You go, girl. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, Joetta, at this point, we just want to hear from you. Obviously, you've shouted out your book. We've talked about your sports foundation. Is there any other activity, business venture that you have that is in the works, irons in the fire, that you would like to share with us or share with the audience?
Well, thanks for asking. For over 3 decades, I've become a leading authority on achievement, wellness, and motivation. And I travel across the country, a lot of colleges I speak at for sports and also for the regular students. And then I do a lot of corporate events, motivation, C-suite, women empowerment. And so that's what I've been doing for over 3 decades. And I think that as I move forward, I have a perfume line, a body splash, a body scrub, Sharrieffa Love.
Oh, yes.
So I have that. And so I just stay in that space. It's not about recreating or coming up with something else. It's about what I love to do, have a passion for doing. I'm partnering now with Coach O. I'm going to be one of his ambassadors for the AAU and for young people, and also making the connection with parents when you have a student athlete, what to talk to coaches about, how to be the parent, not to live vicariously through your kids. And so that's what I'm doing now. So at 62, I don't know if I want anything grandiose, but I just want to keep doing what I'm doing and making sure that people know fitness is a lifestyle. Support USA Track and Field the best that I can. And at this time, I do better right now by just watching and learning and leaning in. I'll lean in eventually, but I think that I like just to go to the meets and talk to the kids and the young adults, and just to help them, with their finances, invest your money, get a good planner, stay on top of your agents and your coaches, and to be smart out there and take care of your body. I came back at 62 after being gone for 25 years because I stayed healthy. I didn't let my body go. I didn't let my mind go. Now, I'm not in shape for race shape, but I could run a 200. But as I move forward, I know that if I'm going to run this Masters, I got to show up my best self, and I have to do some training. And that's what it's all about. Whenever you show up in your best self. So when you leave, you can say, I did the best I could. I may not have a gold medal from the Olympic Games, which I don't, but I got the gold medal of life. I got a college degree, didn't have to pay for it. I have a business. I'm healthy. My daughter's doing well. And I have the opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. And that's what I love, to make a difference in people's lives.
And you have done such a phenomenal job of doing that. I mean, you're just so encouraging. I mean, it's just you're a remarkable person, human being, but most of all, you are my friend.
That's right. We are friends. We take care of each other.
That's right.
That's what friends are for.
You got
And
that
then,
right.
we have an amazing group, Connie, Rose, Marsha,
Yes.
It's just an amazing group of women that started when we were 17 and 18 years old, not knowing what was going to happen. And so you talk about Women's History Month. It's about knowing the history, sharing your history, acknowledging the
Correct.
history of our women and embracing it, so that these younger people know there's a way you carry yourself.
That's right.
There's a way you walk. There's a way you talk. It's nothing wrong with having a persona, but there's a way that you carry yourself. And we learned that from Evie Dennis, and we've learned that from Karen Dennis, Dr. Karen Dennis. So we've seen women doing amazing things and carrying themselves and being respected. And that is what, when I talk about Women's History Month, it's about respect.
That's
not
right.
demanding the respect. You respect yourself. And if you respect yourself, others will respect you.
Girl, go on and preach.
Well, we appreciate you, and we definitely appreciate your constant promotion of passion, productivity, and also patience and progress amongst women and men in the sport of track and field and nationally. We thank you for joining us, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of USATF's Journey to Gold Zone podcast. Peace.
Peace.